Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pei.
And good morning, noon, afternoon. This is Dr. Marissa. You are tuned in to my weekly syndicated award-winning talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get happy with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon here out of Burbank, California with UBN Go, and then replaying every Monday night at 8 on my syndicated CNBC NBC News radio channel KCAA. That's AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and then everywhere on demand with iHeartRadio. And this is a show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K-words, no Kardashian talk at all. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. Why 88? Well, 100% of the time you're dead. We don't want that. So 88, 8's a lucky number in Chinese. I know you thought I was Swedish, but the homonym for good fortune is 8. So it is your birthright to be happy 88% of the time. And those of you who saw Let's Make a Deal on Tuesday know that I was actually comforting Wayne Brady there, talking about his birthright, and we'll come back to that at the end of the show during the balance bar, as well as my peace in, peace out shout outs to all the fabulous people I met on the red carpet at the Builders Ball, Habitat for Humanity. So you want to stay tuned till the end as well. Asian Oprah giveaways, we've got a number of them. We've got tickets to the Cerritos Performing Arts Center, Frankie Valli and Chubby Checker, as well as this fabulous video, Wishman, that we'll talk a little bit about, because that's what brought my guests here to the studio. And speaking of which, I'm going to introduce them. Also, if you missed my amazing interview with Dr. Arturo Sandoval, who's a jazz icon, escaped from Cuba. He was in studio a couple of weeks ago. If you missed that, or any of my other interviews with Marianne from Gilligan's Island to Marianne Williamson, you can go to my free YouTube channel and get those there. All right. Now, on to my show guests. Larry Namer is an entertainment and media entrepreneur who, along with Alan, founded E! Entertainment Television and Movies, USA Magazine, and awarded the President's Award from the National Cable Television Association. And that doesn't even skim the surface. After doing research, I actually emailed him and said, is there anything you don't do? And he said, the dishes. So his son, Jonny Vegas Namer, world-renowned lacrosse player, head coach, producer, podcast host, and an entrepreneur like his dad. Please welcome to the studio, Larry Namer and Jonny Vegas Namer. Yeah, wonderful to have you here. And if you're wondering how someone who directly violates my K-word rule ends up on my show, is because he's a great guy and I have that energy. I feel good people, and I was gravitating towards them in Las Vegas. So it's not true what happens in Vegas actually can come out of Vegas. And I was there listening to him congratulate and talk for a minute. It was a California minute at the wonderful event that celebrated two amazing friends. And one is Dr. Greg Reed, who produced the Wishman movie, which is a movie about the life of another friend of mine who's been on the show, Frank Shankwitz. And the two of them were not only given a star on the Las Vegas Walk of Fame, they were also given a day. So September 15th is now their day. And so Larry got to speak. And then the beautiful story that I'm going to let him tell, just absolutely, I went, I have to have them on the show. So that's why they're here. So tell me, okay, I have a friend. She doesn't have an answering machine. She has a questioning machine. And when you call her, she says, "Who are you and what do you want?" So I'm going to start with you, Jonny. Who are you and what do you want?
Well, I'm the son of Larry Namer, and I've lived my whole life in Southern California. Lived a great life thanks to my dad and my mom Carolyn Namer. And I've played lacrosse all over the world, and I'm trying to follow in my dad's footsteps a little bit.
Wonderful. And specific to the touching story of Make-A-Wish Foundation. So you were actually a wish kid. So you were granted a wish because they didn't think you were going to be around. Yes.
So I battled brain cancer. It was a rare form of brain cancer, and I was 15 years old when I got diagnosed. Wow. And it was several surgeries, a bunch of treatments, radiation, chemo, lost all my hair. Didn't know if I'd get to play lacrosse. That was the main thing I was worried about, which is funny.
It is funny.
I'd wake up from surgery. Can I play lacrosse?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That must have been some time, huh?
Yeah. It's kind of one of those times where you go into a zone and there's nothing else in the world other than this problem.
Right, right. So he went from perfect health to woke up.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was actually kind of. His mom called me one day. His mom and I are not together, but she called me and said, "I think John's drinking or doing drugs." And I said, "No, if you're talking about our daughter, she's drinking and doing drugs, but John certainly isn't." I said, "What's the problem?" She said, "I'm trying to watch him do his homework. He can't get the pencil on the line." I said, "Well, maybe he, needs glasses. Take him to an eye doctor." And so she takes him to an eye doctor and says, "Yeah, of course he needs glasses," and diagnoses him. And then she does a little research and realizes that, he's not really improving with the glasses, takes him back to an eye doctor who says, "Oh, no, he has a muscle disorder in his eye, and we got to do some surgery on the muscle." And doing some web research, she realizes that 80% of what the doctor was saying was true, but 20% really didn't make sense for what was going on with John. So she insists they do an MRI, and sure enough, they find that he has a brain tumor, and
Wow.
And they say, "Oh, yeah, most of the time we don't catch these kids till autopsy because they're always misdiagnosed as having a muscle disorder in the eye."
Wow.
And so that was kind of it. But you, as a parent, you just go into a zone. And
Right.
that's
Right.
it.
So
the rest
you're
of the
a
world doesn't exist.
wow,
Yeah.
wow. So it had to be pretty bad to contact the Make-A-Wish Foundation. The prognosis.
They reached out to us.
Oh, they
Yeah.
did. Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your wish?
So you have to create a list of your top 5, and then they'll try to figure it out which one
Okay.
they could do. And so the one they granted was to meet Metallica and hang out with Metallica. And, but it's not just like you give them a wish,
Yeah.
and then they turn it into something way bigger. So mine was to meet Metallica and hang out with Metallica. Then they give us a limo, fly to the airport, fly us to San Francisco, pay for a hotel, limo everywhere, pay for lunch and dinner at Bubba Gump, $100 arcade tokens, every Metallica CD. We go to the concert in a limo, go to the VIP area, and then they have us meet them. Then we go on stage right behind the drum set, Lars, and we stand there for 2 hours.
Wow, wow. That is absolute.
But 15 when I got diagnosed.
Wow. And then look at you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not 17.
No.
And you're
32 now.
32. And so you're a walking miracle because they didn't think that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you obviously, new lease on kids.
That's true.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful story. And I'm so glad you're here. And now you are taking your life, and what are you doing?
I'm playing lacrosse in some of the toughest and most competitive tournaments and all over the world, and playing for Turkey's national team.
Wow.
And I've gone to a lot of places.
That's how old were you when you started playing lacrosse?
I was 14.
14,
Yeah.
14. That's
Yeah.
late,
Yeah.
right?
It was
To
just-
be a
yeah.
internet like a player, right?
Yeah. Well, most of the East Coast guys, they start when they're really young, elementary school or younger.
Yeah, right.
And then the indigenous peoples who started the game, they're born and they get a stick when they're born.
Wow. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I love that.
it's the America's first sport. Yes, it was started hundreds of years ago by the indigenous people.
And you had a love for that, and you just ran with it,
Yeah.
literally.
Well, my
Yeah.
friends and I saw American Pie, and the Stifler and them were playing lacrosse, so we liked that.
Oh, so that's how that started.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. And Dodd, who are you, and what do you want?
Let's see. I've been a serial entrepreneur for quite a long time, but I actually started out in the cable business when nobody really knew what the cable business was. And I was an assistant underground splicer, which means I worked in the sewers of Manhattan, putting the cables together. And then I kind of graduated from there and eventually started E! Entertainment Television, which is really still, it's only one of the very few cable networks ever started by people as opposed to companies. It was me and my friend Alan, and
Right.
we wrote the plan, raised the money, put it on the air, ran the company, and it became 3 years to raise the first dollar, but then became an overnight success. As soon as it went on the air, everybody
Went
just
crazy.
loved it and went crazy
Yeah.
for it, and and it's been from Talk Soup to Howard Stern to Wild on E to E! Hollywood True Stories, and now it's all Kardashians all the time, and hey, no matter what you think of them, I look at it this way: if it wasn't for them, I'd probably have to get a real job,
Right.
and I'm not ready to do that.
So for that, we can be thankful.
So, and then it grew so big so quick that I found myself, eventually doing, all kinds of stuff that I didn't want to do. So I stopped being creative, and I was basically, in charge of money and investors and all the kind of stuff that bores the hell out of me.
Okay.
And so eventually Alan and I sold the company to Comcast. I went off and started doing some other stuff. I was doing a lot of stuff in Russia.
Yes.
I like doing stuff out of the country.
You brought the Harlem Globetrotters to Russia.
We had the
Yeah.
biggest live event company in the Soviet Union, and then it was just Russia. We've done over 300 concerts, and we do the White Nights Festival, which is still the largest rock festival in that part of the world.
And now you're in China.
Then we went to China. And we have a media company there, and we do the major thing we did different than everybody else is we realized that China really wanted stuff to be made in their language for them. So while all the other American companies were taking what they do around the world and subtitling it, we decided we're going to make stuff just for China in Chinese and stuff. And we've been doing that for 10 years.
And you're not very successful at all. Sarcasm is another service that I offer. Yeah, you actually have gotten awards for the shows. You're the first Western writer, right, to write a sitcom series.
In Chinese.
In Chinese. There you go.
Yeah, first non-Chinese person ever to.
Yeah, that's
do
amazing. So do you ever wake up and go, what happened, or did you always know? Or I guess what I'm really getting at is, what is the formula for people who want to be successful? I mean, entrepreneurs is not always an easy road, but you seem like everything you touch almost turns to gold. Well, maybe not overnight. You just gave me some hint there. 3 years to make the first penny, and then it was an overnight success. Yeah. So is there a formula?
There's actually two parts to the answer.
Okay.
Number one is in the case of E!, which originally was called Movie Time, and then we changed the name to E!. People say, when did you know that was a success? And literally, it was from the first day Alan and I had the idea.
Okay.
Back then everybody talked about cable TV as like an electronic newspaper, and we said, okay, well, which is the entertainment pages.
Yeah.
So that's what we set out, was to create the entertainment pages of that cable TV newspaper, and so we always knew. I mean, it wasn't a surprise to us. We knew exactly what it was going to be. But, when you look at entrepreneuring, I mean, for every one that I've had that's successful, I have had 10 that weren't. But the trick is, and what we've been able to do, or I've been able to do, is put my ego aside and look at something and say, okay, that seemed like such a good idea. but now I know it's not. Next. And just to be able to get rid of that stuff. People stick with stuff way too long. After you know it's not going to work, it's just your ego won't let you let go of it. And so they spend all their time working on things that can't work instead of turning their attention to the next one, which possibly could work.
That, my friends, was a $1 million piece of advice from Larry Namer. If you've just tuned in and wondering who these two good-looking guys are at my studio, it is Larry Namer. It's my first father and son duo, and Jonny Vegas Namer. They are, they're both entrepreneurs, and you'll know Larry as the co-founder of E Entertainment, and we're just chatting and finding out all of his secrets to success. So that is amazing advice, because I know that sometimes, I tell my coaching clients, the worst thing you can do is plant a seed of an idea, give it all the fertilizer, see the sprout growing, and it's not growing fast enough. So you grab it, you pull it out of the dirt and go, why aren't you growing? And you kill it. So that's maybe the opposite, killing it too quickly and not giving it time.
It's being, like I say, get your ego aside and realistically assess where you are with that. So like I say, with E and Movie Time, Alan and I knew, even though it was some really hard times, we knew, and we never gave up on it because we knew what it was going to be, as opposed to some of the other ideas that seemed like such good ideas at the time, but then you kind of realize that the world has changed or the idea wasn't all that good to begin with.
Can you give an example? Or
Sure.
You don't,
We, Alan and I wanted to do a second TV network, which we call FX TV, Fitness and Exercise Television. And it seemed like a great idea. We said, boy, that's missing. There's no fitness and exercise. But then as we dug into it, we realized that the people who like yoga don't necessarily like
cardio,
cardio, and some people wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning and they want to exercise. Other people wake up at 4, and this was in the days where television was linear, where you had to program stuff. So this show was on at 7, this one's on at 7:30.
Right.
So it didn't work in the linear or the analog TV world. Now along comes the internet, and it would have been a great idea once you could start to do stuff on demand. But we realized in the analog world that concept, while it seemed great at the beginning, wasn't going to work, and we killed it off. But we had great people involved.
Right.
Bruce Jenner was one of our partners. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was one. Another one was O.J. Simpson. But that didn't turn out well. And
on a whole number of
a
levels.
whole bunch, but that was, it seemed like such a great idea, and everybody loved it. And Alan and I looked at each other and said, you know what? This ain't going to work.
Right.
While people still believed it was going to work. So going back to investors and saying, hey, by the way, this ain't going to work. Here's your money back before we lose it.
Wow. That's a stunner.
It takes a lot.
Yeah. So do you learn a lot by watching your dad, or do you actually like, hey, I have an idea. What do you think about this?
A little both.
A little both. It's free,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I take advantage of the advice.
Yeah, so definitely, when it comes to websites or marketing or merchandise for my teams or myself, he always helps me out with that. Or if I have an idea for a show or YouTube segment, I'll ask him his opinion on it, and sometimes he'll say, no, that's ridiculous, or he'll say, oh, that's a good idea.
Is it weird having a son who's also an entrepreneur?
No, not really. And so he does a lot of, he does a lot on his own. And, it's the rare instance where he comes to me for advice. But he's doing fine. So,
yeah, that's great. That's great. So what are you doing now? So I know that there's some projects in, I wanted to ask another kind of juicy question. So now, as much as I am not crazy about the K word and all of that, a lot of the shows that you're doing in Russia or in China, it's all around the same focus on human dynamics. And sometimes, my criticism is the reality shows, like, they capitalize on the worst common denominator of people, the jealousy, the hatred, the resentment, the bitterness. But it makes for good TV. It's drama. What is your, are you doing that on purpose, or are you just saying that's just the way we're wired, and so give into it? So if you could comment on that.
Sure. Well, first of all, the proliferation of any genre of programming really is dependent on what the audience is willing to eat. So, reality TV, and let's call it the negative ones, where it's vote your neighbor off the island kind of stuff, it's there because people love it and people watch it.
Yeah.
And if they didn't love it and they didn't watch it, they would go away and they'd be replaced by something else. Mm-hmm. But no, for me, it's actually a little different. It's kind of been there, done that kind of stuff. That's one of the reasons I like China, because here everybody wants me to create the same things that I've been creating for 30 years.
Right.
And, I'm beyond, I think I'm beyond that. Mm-hmm. So in China, I get to do, I've been doing scripted drama, I'm doing a little bit of reality, but very different. I call it positive reality. We created a show called the Bruce Lee Project, which is, it's kind of survival, but based on the philosophies of Bruce Lee, which is all very positive.
Right.
It's all about be the best you can be, which we think the world is kind of
moving in that direction.
Yay!
I'm so happy.
We've done sitcoms there, one of which I wrote, which was actually nominated for the Asia TV Awards as the best sitcom to come out of China. We're doing a big movie now called The Empress, which is about Empress Wu, who is the first woman, the only woman ever to rule China.
Wow.
But we're doing that movie in English, using American-born Chinese and Canadian-born Chinese. Written by Ron Bass, who won the Academy Award for Rain Man.
Oh.
And he co-wrote Joy Luck Club.
Wow.
And, in China, she's been dealt with, she's kind of the George Washington. Mm-hmm. So she's been dealt with in Chinese media over and over, but never really been looked at through Western eyes.
Interesting.
So it's really, in our story, she's really a woman's struggle to make it in a male-dominated society, which obviously is a very timely subject these days.
So if I'm nice to you, maybe I'll get a part in that.
Maybe.
I'm shameless, I know. But that's fabulous. That sounds really... And I'm the most happy to hear what you said about, the positive, obviously, because my happy 88 mission is 8 million more happy people in the next 8 years. And people have told me all the time that my idea of having good news or a show, I balance out the bad news with the good news. They told me it would never sell. It would never have an audience because they want to hear the bad stuff. They don't want, but my numbers are good and I've survived for 7 years and I've won awards. So I'm hoping that that's shifting.
Well, the more bad news that surrounds you, the more you'll find people looking for the good news nuggets. So
okay, so there's hope.
There's hope.
So don't stop what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm indirectly asking you for advice. So Jonny.
Yeah.
Here's why did you put Vegas in your middle name?
So it's an interesting. So years ago, when I was in college, I had a coach that gave me a nickname, Johnny Vegas, because I was always going to Vegas with my dad, with lacrosse teams, and I just would always talk about it. So he's like, "What's up, Mr. Vegas? Hey, Johnny Vegas." And then I played in a tournament. We won the championship, and I got the MVP. And so he said, "You're now Johnny Vegas." And I never called myself it till I started doing YouTube and podcast hosting. And then I'm like, well, that would make a good logo with the casino chip, and ever since then.
There you go. Because it wasn't my idea for Asian Oprah. I had been called that, and I thought that it was way too big of a name for me to step into. But then Michael Bernard Beckwith introduced me to her as the Asian Oprah. So it was like one of those, oh, okay. And she just looked at me, looked down, and said, "Nice pants." And took everything for me not to say, "Do you want them?" Like, I'll take them off right now, but I did it. But so when you do all of the cultural, especially in China, does the government get involved at all?
Well, there's a lot of rules and regulations and stuff, but then you have the same in every country you go to. They're just different. I kind of liken doing this stuff I mean, I've done Russia successfully. I do China successfully. I kind of liken it to like visiting my mother's house. You know, may she rest in peace. She died a few years ago. But, you know, I visit my mom's house and I go, okay, tonight let's go to dinner at 8 o'clock. We'll go for Italian food. And she'll go, no, we're having dinner at 6 o'clock and we're going for delicatessen. I'm going, no, but I want Italian food. She goes, well, in my house, we eat at 6. And that's kind of the way I look at these countries. I mean, I'm a guest in someone else's country. And, you know, whether I agree with the rules or not is irrelevant. Those are the rules. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. So, you know, in China, we stay away from political programming because that's not what I do. I mean, I kind of do like silly, you know, kind of talk soup kind of stuff. And so we've really never had any issues whatsoever with censorship. People, you know, they say to me, they go, oh, doesn't it bother you to, you know, all that censorship? And I say, you know, what do you think happens to me in the U.S.? I mean, I have to pitch Fox, and, you know, if Rupert Murdoch doesn't like what I want to do, I don't get to do it.
Right.
What's the difference between that and, you know, having to get approval from a Chinese regulatory body and stuff?
Right.
I mean, they all have their own politics, and it plays in what they allow to go on the air.
Right. I did a speaking tour in 2010 in China. My father was actually one of the first foreign experts invited in. He's originally from China. And so I got to meet with Discovery Channel China and 5 executives around the room. And I chuckle every time I have this memory because this is 2010. And they said, so if we were to give you a show, what would you like to talk about? And I'm all excited, and I'm like, oh, how about consumerism meets communism meets capitalism, and how about the impact of the one-child family on the parents and holding the parents hostage about having and I look around, and all of a sudden, all I see is,
Oh, shit.
you know, because I'd put them in jail. If they did any of that.
Yeah. We got censored once, and it was actually kind of interesting. And it was a good life lesson for me. We were doing a show called Hello Hollywood, which we have Mandarin-speaking hosts that run around Hollywood. And we were doing something about vanity pets, you know, celebrities who buy diamond sweaters for their dogs and stuff like that. And, you know, so we got called in China by, the regulatory body, who you were pretty friendly with, you know, and they said, Larry, you have this thing about, vanity animals. And I went, yeah. And they went, you can't put that on the air. And I said, why not? I mean, it's about like dogs with sweaters. I mean, what do you want to do, eat them? And they were like, no. They go, you don't understand. In your press, your U.S. press talks about the 400 million people that have kind of moved into the middle class in China and stuff, and it's fine for them. But what happens to the other 900 million people that are living in abject poverty in China that we're trying to do something about, and you're telling them that they should buy a sweater for their dog instead of feeding their pig, because at least they could eat the pig.
Right.
And then you kind of understand they're dealing with a whole different set of issues and problems than we deal here. And for us, we just went, okay, no vanity animals. How about furnishing your apartment? And I go, yeah, that's good. The country's so big, and there's so many things you can do. You don't have to get into little squabbles about that. Now they've actually changed the regulation. Now you could buy anything you want for your vanity animal.
Right. So I'm getting the signal. We have to break to thank our fabulous sponsors who make this show possible. If you have any products or books or services or anything that you would like on a like-minded, love-hearted show, please do contact me for very affordable rates. But we'll be back in 2 and 2. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. I don't hear that's because it's right here. That's what happens when I take my cans off. The Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts is a place to be entertained and inspired by human nature showing off. If you want to laugh with Louis Anderson and Rita Rudner, soar with the voice of Jackie Evancho, or groove with Frankie Avalon and Chubby Checker, then go to www.cerritocenters.com for tickets to these amazing artists and more for the 2019-20 season. That's www.cerritocenter.com. Hi, I'm Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah, and your personal advocate for more happiness in an easy way to put a smile on your face. Take your car to the Cypress Car Spa for an affordable and expert wash and detail. Conveniently located at 6000 Cerritos Avenue and Valley View Boulevard in Cypress, California. Tell Greg I sent you for an extra discount at Cypress Car Spa, one of Dr. Marissa's happy 88 stops on the joyride of life. And we're back. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get happy with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon. Broadcasting out of Burbank, California, right next to, what is that? Warner Brothers. That's it. We used to be at Hollywood Sunset Gower. Okay, so broadcasting out of UBN Go on Tuesdays and then replaying every Monday at 8 p.m. on my syndicated CNBC NBC News Radio channel, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, home to Dave Ramsey and the Asian Oprah, and just voted #1 FM station in Southern California. And we are here. This is a show about hope and happiness, and I have guests who are telling me that hope and happiness might be a trending topic for the future. Please welcome back to my studio Mr. Larry Namer, the co-founder of E-Entertainment and much, much more, and his fab son, Jonny Vegas Namer. Welcome back.
Thank you.
What's your proudest accomplishment besides staying alive after a brain tumor that should have taken you out?
I would say my proudest accomplishment would be, it's very interesting when you have a family reach out to you and they say, can you talk to my son? He's a lacrosse player battling cancer, and he needs to talk to someone that's beat it. And so several times I've had that happen, and every time he'd message me, I'd message right back, and I was in contact with the dad and the mom. And just for those short months, he ended up passing away, but for those short months, I gave him some positive reinforcement that, I really thought he'd beat it because of his attitude, but he did end up passing.
What was his name?
Dylan.
Dylan. So we know that Dylan's on the other side with my dad and your mom, and that's wonderful. And for that, I'm going to give you, and I don't give this to all of my guests, is Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award.
Oh,
and
cool.
There we go. You don't hear it. There's actually applause because you don't have the cans on.
Yeah.
But that's fabulous. I think one of the most important things that I've learned is that pain in life is mandatory, suffering is optional, but the pain in life helps someone else, and for that I am truly grateful. So you were going to say something? No? Oh, you weren't? Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say something. And your proudest moment?
Most people think it's E, but it's actually not. The sitcom that I created in China, which is called Return to the Village of Good Fortune, which is a look at the contradictions of modern Chinese life, what happens when you have incredible economic growth in a very short period of time and people's social skills don't grow as quickly as their bank account. And when that got nominated for the Asia TV Awards, then I just said, gee, this is amazing. It's a show that I wrote for a country that I didn't grow up in a language that I don't really speak. And it's now the only sitcom from China nominated. So, when you think about it, it's the funniest TV show in China is written by a New York Jew. To me, that was kind of ironic and, kind of like one of those things that kind of puts a smile on your face.
Of course. 讲国语吗？一点点。No.
So little.
You know how to say 谢谢.
That I know.
That you know, right?
I know how to call the waiter to bring me the check.
Okay.
I can get, but when I'm there, the problem with trying to learn Mandarin is it's tonal. And if you're a person like me who can't sing or is totally tone deaf, it's just an impossible language.
Yeah.
But I know the basics. So.
Yeah. Well, my brother, I'm going to put him under the bus. He didn't speak a lot growing up. And so 新年快乐 is Happy New Year, right? But he says it 新年快乐, which is wash your face quickly. And it's very, very close, but it's that tone that you're talking about. Exactly. Exactly. So it's
impossible.
A little more difficult.
Particularly, if you listen to Mandarin with a Brooklyn accent. It's just,
or speak it with a Brooklyn accent. I've got to get that out.
It doesn't work.
They should please just speak English. We'll interpret for you, right? So what would you say? Do you have a life motto? Like, do you live by a life motto? Question to both of you. Jonny?
I would say live your life to the fullest. Don't let anything hold you back from achieving your goals.
What would you say, in your opinion, or what you've seen, holds people back?
I think life struggles, health issues, different things come up. And like for me, when I got diagnosed with brain cancer, I could have just said, all right, I'm just not going to play lacrosse again. I'm just going to go to the doctors, and, it would have been a sad life because I just would have been taking medication and not doing what I love to do, playing lacrosse, hanging out with friends. So that could have been something that held me back from achieving my goals.
Giving up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you do motivational speaking? Because you could. You should.
I want to.
Yeah, you definitely should, because your story is pretty amazing.
Thank you.
So, yeah, a lot to learn there. As yours, but yours has been longer.
I'm a hermit. He likes speaking in front of people. I mean, I do it all the time. But, I don't look for it. I do it when I have to, not... I'm not searching for it.
Yeah, I see one of the reasons why you're so successful. And I didn't know this, obviously, just reading about you. And the stereotypical profiler of a Hollywood media entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur, is that, full of ego, full of whatever. Well, I could say just the W word and how he made it, and unfortunately with the Me Too and all of that. But you're one of the most humble guys that I have ever met.
It's because I don't take it all that seriously.
And there's the other thing. Yeah. Has he always been like this?
Yeah.
This is how he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a pretty strong introvert too.
Very much so.
Very much so.
Much rather do a dinner party with some close friends at my house than be at the Academy Awards. So.
Right.
And he's a great chef.
Ooh, what's his best dish? What's his best dish? What time am I coming over? You make Chinese food?
I've been cooking Chinese since I'm like 14 years old.
What?
Very good.
What?
I worked in a Chinese restaurant in New York, in the delivery section, and I had them teach me how to cook, because I would take the bags from the kitchen and deliver them to people's houses.
Wow. And what was the dish? What's your key dish?
I can cook anything.
Anything? So my dad told me that the number one dish to tell if you're a good cook or not, a good Chinese cook, is, can you guess? It's the green beans. The string beans.
The string. I just did them the other night.
You did?
The blistered green beans.
Yes. Yeah. So if you can do that, then you must be a good
cook. I do that
cook.
all the time.
Okay, but I don't believe you. You're going to have to prove it. That's one way to get a dinner invitation, right? I got one to Arturo Sandoval's house. His wife is apparently a great cook, so cool. I have to go 2 for 2, I guess. But that's great. So what other advice would you have for anyone who is trying to, 1, make it as an entrepreneur, 2, make it in the entertainment and do the kind of things? I mean, the perception is that if you don't have a track record, or if you don't have connections, or if you don't, maybe not track record, but if you don't know somebody, then it's impossible, because it just kind of stays within there. Is that true?
I think it was probably true 50 years ago, but I don't think it's so true anymore. I mean, now I mean, it used to be the barriers to entry was so high that you couldn't do anything unless you had a studio connection or whatever. But I mean, now, you could make a TikTok video for $1.50 and you could become a social media star, which then leads to other things. I mean, right now, all the agencies are combing, social media for that next wave of people. And, you could make it with your cell phone and a laptop. You could, make movies.
Right. So, besides don't give up, anything else as far as advice?
Yeah, I'd say do things that you want to do. Don't be stuck doing something every day that you're just miserable at. That's not living. You're not living if you're doing that.
And then for the realists who might be listening saying, yeah, but I can't make money doing what I really want to do. I can only make money doing what I don't like to do. What do you say to them?
I'd say find ways to do both. And then when you are successful at what you want to do, you can maybe give up the thing that you don't like to do. So with now social media, and there's so many avenues to network with people, and you can find ways to make it happen, especially with YouTube. And
You're obviously channeling your dad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we look at just Hollywood, I think, one of the biggest problems is, people come into town, they get caught up in the BS, which is quite a bit of that stuff in town. And
give me an example. What's that?
well, I get, I meet people and, like Jonny's taking acting lessons now. So kids I talk to from there, who came from Oklahoma and they were in the drama club and whatever. And they tell me, oh, yeah, I know the biggest producers. And they're telling me about they go to parties and all this stuff, essentially with nobodies. And I'm going, they just don't, they're putting all their time into things that are just not real because they believe the BS here. I mean, my motto in Hollywood is, you're full of it until you prove to me you're not, as opposed to the other way around.
Right.
And stuff, because, like I say, people just get caught up in the scene. They go, I went to a premiere of so-and-so's new movie, and I'm like, I never heard of them or
the movie,
or
yeah.
whatever. They think,
Right.
they get to send the pictures back home and, wow, they're in Hollywood.
Right. So what is the road then? What isn't BS?
Well, it's to really, again, be honest with yourself about what's real and what's not real and stuff here, and to be able to separate out those things. And, you have limited amount of time, so you can't be at everything. It's just pick those places that make the most sense, where there's actually some benefit to meeting this producer or that producer or going to this premiere or whatever. But people just go to everything, they just think my life is so complex. I go to, a movie premiere every night,
Right.
And they're basically meaningless.
Yeah. I'm starting to get that with the invites to the red carpets. Yeah. I hear you. I just got one on the way in the car, and I kept asking, and what is this for again?
Yeah.
So.
Well, now you're starting to see it now. There's probably, there used to be, the let's talk the Academy Awards, and then the official parties there, which are always great, and it's all real people. But then you had, the Night of 100 Stars, which was done by a real agent, who started inviting, all the people that don't get invited to the Academy Award, but still have won, Emmys and Oscars and stuff like that. And those are great to go to and, meet all people. But now there's probably 5 or 6 of like the silliest, Oscar parties and stuff, and people are paying $1,000 and $1,500 thinking they're going to meet like the who's who of Hollywood, and they're basically meeting their neighbors.
Yeah. Is there anyone that you haven't met that you would like to meet on the planet?
Warren Buffett, probably.
Okay. We'll see if we can make that happen. You never know. And you?
No, I think Warren, of all the success, has managed it miraculously and beautifully and stuff. And, that would be, kind of the way I approach it. And I don't need to have a big Bel Air house and stuff like that. My house is just fine.
Yeah, great. Who would you, if you could meet someone who's passed, who would that be?
Marilyn Monroe.
He's still alive. I like that smile. That's the biggest smile we've seen today. That's great. Jonny?
So I would say Jim Carrey.
Okay.
I guess I just grew up loving his movies, and that'd be cool to meet him. And then someone that's passed away, I would say... I don't know. I can't think of
Okay,
something.
that's all right. That's all right. So the last question that I always ask my guests is, who or what are you most grateful for in your life? Who or what are you most grateful for in your life?
Well, I mean, for me, it's certainly my parents. They, we come from an immigrant background. My grandparents, none of my grandparents were born here. And they just instilled in me not just a work ethic, but, a value ethic, morality, that, my responsibility on this planet is to leave it better than I found it in every way, from people to animals to environment and stuff like that. And they were both really the kind of parents that would work 3 jobs so that I could be the first kid in the family ever to go to a college and stuff like that. So, yeah, grateful for that.
Great. Beautiful. Jonny?
Yeah, I'd say...
You don't have to say your dad even though he's here.
No, I'm going to include more. So I'd say my parents, my mom and my dad, and then my sister, Nicole, and then my brother, Alexander.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for gracing my studio and coming to Burbank. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate your words of wisdom. Please join me in thanking them for being here today. And there's the applause you can hear through the kids. And it's time at the end of the show for welcoming you to my balance bar. And I'll put this back on. There's my ding-a-ling. You can listen in if you'd like to with the cans. And let's see. Here we go. So we're going to play just a little clip here. This was me on Tuesday, where I got to play with Wayne Brady on Let's Make a Deal.
Where are you from?
Long Beach, California.
Long Beach? And what do you do?
I'm a corporate psychologist.
Ooh, what's a corporate psychologist versus a psychologist?
We are shrinks that want you to expand.
Expand what? Horizontally or my mind?
In happiness.
Oh, well, I would like to expand in happiness. That's a beautiful thing. Why do I feel like I'm visiting you in prison right now?
Yes, hello?
It's okay, baby. I love you. The kids are asking about you. It's okay.
Yes, it's your birthright to be happy, baby.
And that was super fun. And yes, I did win in the final showcase. You'll have to see the clips on my social media. Doc Balance at Instagram, Dr. Marissa everywhere else. And peace in, peace out to all the fabulous people I met on the Habitat Builders Ball. Let's see, the chairman, Eric Benet, and his current wife, Manuela Testolini. And I didn't know she was Prince's former wife because I don't watch E. Ha, ha, ha. And I actually had the balls to mention that I had interviewed Hallie, and his face was interesting. Let's see. It was fun chatting with Die Hard 2 actor Art Evans, General Hospital's Lisa Locicero. And she actually got teary-eyed, which I love. I love when people cry when they talk to me because it means their hearts are open, and tears are the disinfectant that keep your heart soft. Kate Linder from The Young and the Restless, and my favorite, the Olympic couple Siobhan and Jamie Nieto. I also got a sound bite from Brett Lockett. There's another E story that I'm sure you know about already. But that's enough of the past. What's coming up this and every Thursday? My Unity Show Thursday call-in show. Don't worry, choose happy. And we're talking about the 21-day fast from complaining with Dr. Marissa this Thursday. Call 816-251-3555. Monday, tune in at 10 for my Monday is the New Friday series on my Facebook Live, where I get you to drink the Kool-Aid and get back your Mondays. If you would like a happiness tip sheet, go to drmarissa.life and you will get on my Happy 88 list. And last but not least, my Asian Oprah giveaway. Congratulations to multiple winners, Sarah, Kai, Tanya, Natalie, Janice, and Lou. Congrats for winning free day passes to the Catalina Jazz Tracks Festival that I get to cover this weekend. Huge Groove, Damien Escobar, Count Basie Orchestra, number one again, Keiko Matsui, my twin, Boney James, Peter White, Acoustic Alchemy, and more. October 10th to 13th and 17th to 20th. Almost sold out, jazztracks.com, TRAX. And this week, the new giveaway. Wishman movie, the first one to go to drmarissa.life and puts down